Man, Mr. E Carb Shop here. I'm going to walk you through a couple of things that I did to fit a Weber 3236 onto an EFI metric era Iron Duke from an S10 1988. So as you'll see, it's not actually mounted down because I still need to go up to Ace Hardware and get some 5/16 24 threaded stud. Hopefully they have that. I probably could have just standard threaded this, and I probably could still standard thread this to use normal carb studs, but I'll just try to do a fine thread all the way through. So you'll see that little aluminum block there. That's the carb adapter. And then above that is an SCCA approved phenolic spacer. And the reason why I emphasize SCCA approved is because I have not been able to find a 1/2 inch spacer. And SCCA apparently requires Weber spacers to be less than 1/4 inch, which is what this is. So I've ordered a second one because I've got clearance issues with that linkage. The bottom of the linkage down there is swinging into the adapter. Now I could probably just mill it and clearance it, but I'll just try to stack 2 of those when the time comes. It'll probably be here tomorrow. For spark, I've got a couple of different options. I bought this. It's an old Jeep HEI style, you know, with the big ugly cap and mechanical weight advance. It also had a vacuum advance, but I don't think Weber's have a ported vacuum anywhere on it, so not like I can use that. The issue that I've come across with this, I wanted to change the gear to a gear that I got off of an 88 distributor, because the 88s were roller cam, and this is an 88 engine, it's a roller cam. And I've always been told to keep roller cam distributor gears on roller cams. And this era Iron Duke was not roller cam. So I knocked the pin out, slid that off, knocked the pin out of this one, slid that gear off, thinking I was going to just stick it on there and punch the pin back in. And then I discovered that the bore of this gear is significantly smaller than the diameter of that shaft. This is a 1/2 inch shaft. I don't remember what that was, but it's much less than 1/2 inch. So to make that work, I'm going to have to get a reamer that's just under 1/2 inch, or maybe a 1/2 inch reamer, and chuck it in a lathe and bore that open to 1/2 inch so it'll slide on there. So that's one possibility. I do have another distributor in here that is also a 88 electronic controlled distributor, and I haven't completely destroyed it. It just needs a rotor and a cap. So I could purchase a Speeduino, what is it, the N2C something, which is just a 2-channel fuel injector controller and a 2-channel coil controller. So I could buy that and then basically just have that control the spark. But anyway, back to the carburetor. Or the other thing you could do is just ground one of the pins of the HEI module, and then it'll just run locked out. And then set the timing to like 20 degrees. That's still sacrificing quite a bit of power, because I think these things would do best at more like 34 degrees. But that's a possibility. Like, whenever it comes time to actually put this thing in the Jeep and first start it up, I'll probably be setting this to like 15, 20 degrees just to run it, seat the rings in, and prove everything out, you know, fix all the leaks. All right, pull the carburetor off one-handed with an injured thumb. Let me switch hands. So the carburetor is unmodified. So let me get it out of the way. Put it right there. And here you see the spacer. One end, the primary end, is narrower than the secondary end, so that's important. And then here you see the adapter. Now, the adapter you can see is port matched because what I did was I chucked the intake up on a mill table, and then with a, can't remember what size 2 flute it was, but I basically just kind of plunged down on the width there, and then over here plunged down on the width, and then milled it out. So it is oval going into an oval, but it's oval going into a smaller oval. So I had to port match. And then drilled the holes there and countersunk them so this guy can sit over them. And then I drill and tapped those 4. And that's basically it. And then the EGR block-off plate with some ultra copper underneath it. No RTV under this. Never do RTV anywhere around a carburetor. What I did was I bought a roll of gasket material just at the auto parts store, and then laid it down on top of the intake manifold and kind of just marked it out and marked it with the inside for the adapter, and then cut it and cut the holes out, and then applied some grease to it because the grease keeps the gasket from vulcanizing to your intake, the adapter, or the carburetor. So that way, if you have to pull it off for whatever reason, the gasket stands a chance to survive. That's basically all I did. Let me grab a 5mm Allen. How about that? And pop this thing off for y'all so you can see my handiwork on the intake manifold. When you tighten these, you don't want to torque them you want them snug, but you don't want to really torque them and crank them down because aluminum can distort when you torque it like that. Oh, Black Widow. All right. Wow. He tried to come back at me, or she. Anyway. I don't know if that's inappropriate for YouTube. It's August here, so we're creeping up on the end of summer and critters are just getting kind of crazy. Caught a mouse today. Cats have been like coming around. And I've got a dog, so they drive her nuts. Okay, there's my gasket. And there's the intake manifold. I am not at all concerned with this being open because the gasket's going to seal it up. And this was just a round hole that big. So you can see I milled it oval that way and that way. I'm also not concerned with smoothing it out because all of that is under the adapter. And that is it. Another way to do this would have been to make a flange adapter and instead of bolting it down, completely cut that open and just weld it all the way around. That would have been the other way. And I don't have a TIG welder, but I do have a mill. So believe it or not, this was easier for me. Brings us to fuel pump. There is no provision for a mechanical fuel pump on this engine. So your only options are going to be engineer a belt-driven fuel pump or go with an electric fuel pump. So there are some like Edelbrock and Holley and even Summit brand small clacker fuel pumps that look sort of like this. They're red plastic and they've just got an inlet and an outlet, and they're really noisy. And my understanding is not to expect a very long lifespan out of them. So no big deal. If you buy 2 of them, then that's fine. I went and got this Carter These Carters have a little bit better of a reputation, so I'm going to give it a shot. It's a lot bigger though, which is kind of a pain in the butt, but I think I figured out where to put it on the frame rail on the passenger side there. I've got some room between the frame and the fender. So those are your two options there, and then anytime you run the fuel pump, you're going to want to put it through a relay and then fuse it. So that's the fuel pump. That's it. Weber 3236 on an Iron Duke. Sorry I can't show it to you running, but I've got a lot of things to do to get there. So at some point in time, if you do follow this channel, you will see this thing run, hopefully sooner than later. Thanks.